president of the UFC. I went to the UFC Houston event, so thanks for putting that on. It was kind of a nice break from all the football stuff. I imagine you were at the Super Bowl, right, watching the Pats get the win?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was awesome, man. I was, the first three quarters weren't awesome, but the last one was. I had a blast. It was incredible. One of the greatest things I've ever seen, and I had my whole family with me, and we had a blast.
So you didn't leave with Wahlberg early, so that's good.
No. Oh, my God. He's getting hammered over that, man.
He went with the sick kid defense, which I don't blame him. I
know. He got up and left in the third quarter, and, man, the Boston fans are just all over him.
They should, too, but he did go to that card where you pretty much get a free pass. You blame a sick kid. We've been talking a lot about Ronda Rousey. We had Ramona Shelburne in here a few weeks ago. She did a nice piece for ESPN The Magazine. I was worried about Ronda going into her fight, even before the fight, because I thought she had invested so much into it as far as her identity and her future. If she won that fight, it was going to be her resurgence. Now that she didn't win it, where is she mentally?
The last time I talked to her, she, I just felt like when we talked that she, I don't know, I talked to fighters, all day, every day for the last 30 years of my life, and it just felt like she was looking toward the future and other things, whatever's next. And just for the record, never once did she speak to me about retiring or even hint about it. I just got that feeling from her.
Yeah, because when it comes out, you know how it gets chopped up, Dana, and we're talking to Dana White here at the UFC 208 in Brooklyn this weekend, the pay-per-view. It's like, oh, Dana White says that she's going to retire. So you were just kind of talking like a person talking, not necessarily as someone predicting the future, her, correct?
Absolutely.
So is she going to be upset with you, or do you guys you'll work it out?
Ronda Rousey and I have and always have had and always will have a great relationship. She is, what she did coming into the UFC, the first woman that I brought in, and what she built and what she's done and, what she's created for women in the future is amazing. And I love her. I respect her. And we never have any problems, her and I.
Dana, when I see Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather, I see two dudes who love being the center of attention, who love being the center of a conversation. When I see them keep teasing media members, they put out social media posts, I think that's exactly what it is. I think they're just kind of generating attention in a fight that will never happen. Do you see anything different?
They're both very good at staying very relevant while they're not doing anything. They're the best.
That's the best way to put it. So you don't think this fight will ever happen?
Well, let me put it this way. Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather are in the same sport, and look how long it took for that fight to happen.
So let's just lock this one up. We'll have a remote set up in 2025 when no one will want to see it anymore.
Right.
That's a good point.
Dana White joining us here. I look at how much we spend time on talking about quarterbacks, right? Like, you're a huge football guy. There's so many quarterbacks. We see him out of college. You're like, man, that guy never worked out. He stunk. How do you evaluate fighters when you see him at first and wonder if they can actually be the kind of main event fighter that you guys promote in the UFC?
Yeah, it's one of those things when you see somebody, you look at their speed, their style, their size, whatever it might be, and then you watch them fight. And, how well do they deal with adversity? It's the guys who get into the deep water and can get back out. Those are usually the ones that I look at. And think have the possibility to be a world champion. So you have to. I have this show called Dana White Looking for a Fight that's on YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. It's basically where we go out and we go to these small shows and look for fighters. You have to be there. It's not the same watching them on tape. I believe like these baseball and football scouts. They go to the games, they go to these kids' games, and they watch these kids play. It's the same thing for fighting. You have to be there live to really see. Not saying you couldn't do it on tape, but there's so much more to it when you're live.
So I feel like that part of it's completely overlooked. Like, It's as if the UFC just gets a list of tough guys and then you pick some. Like, that's not, it's very similar to evaluating any kind of athlete. So have there been times where somebody's completely surprised you, somebody you saw in the beginning where you go, no shot, and they ended up being a champ?
Oh, 100%. Oh, 100%, yeah. And there's been times on The Ultimate Fighter where the last pick, the coaches pick teams, like back in dodgeball, you know what I mean?
Right.
You got the last guy standing out there embarrassed, and where the last guy picked wins the show.
Dana, Tyron Woodley was here just a couple weeks ago, and he was doing some stuff with First Take, and he mentioned that he thought he was the worst treated heavy champion, UFC champion, and he blamed it on his complexion. He said it was because he was different complexion, brought race into it, referenced several other fighters, thought they were under-promoted. What'd you make of his comments?
The thing is, if you know Tyron, the thing is with Tyron, first of all, he's a smart guy. He's a good-looking kid. He's explosive, he's got knockout power, but he's a bit of a drama queen. I mean, if this guy would just be, it's the way that what he's talking about treated too, and I think he means the fans are a big part of it too, is that, when a fight is made, and Conor McGregor is a perfect example. Conor McGregor has that fight anybody, anywhere attitude, but doesn't just have the attitude, he lives it. I've stood in front of him 10 days notice, and his opponent falls out, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care. Bring them all in. I'm better than everybody. I'm the man. I'm the guy. If Tyron Woodley had that attitude, Tyron Woodley would be a massive star. Massive star. But he does these things where he literally, he'll say on Instagram, when they know who's next, who's supposed to fight next, he'll go out on social media and say, I'm not fighting him. I don't want to fight him. I think I want to fight this guy or that. You know what I mean? And that's not what people want to hear. People don't want to hear that. And then what he does then is he'll start fighting and arguing with people on social media. And then he wonders why when we show up for a press conference, the whole crowd's booing him. They're not booing him because he's black. There's tons of black guys fighting in the UFC. You know what I mean? So it's Tyron. It's out of, if you look at the guy, right, he's the perfect specimen. He's the perfect athlete that you can get behind and promote until he shoots himself in the foot by doing that type of stuff.
Enjoy Brooklyn this weekend, Dana. Thanks, man.
This main event, it's a historic main event. It's a 145-pound female fight between Holly Holm and Germaine de Randamie. I got to see these two at the open workouts in Brooklyn yesterday, and I'll just tell you that I've been through a lot of fight weeks. I like to get the sense of fighters, their confidence level, how they're feeling. If they're feeling any nerves the week of the fight. I got to say, Germaine de Randamie, and I know that this is just kind of her personality, but she is coming into this fight, it feels like, with absolutely nothing to lose. This was not necessarily an opportunity that she had seen coming on the horizon. She jumped at it, and she's very loose. Meanwhile, I think Holly Holm is feeling just a little bit of pressure because she's coming off of that 2-fight losing streak. She doesn't want her career to be defined by that win over Ronda Rousey. Is that sort of what you've sensed out of these two as well?
Yeah, I mean, if you watched, UFC Embedded, Germaine is having fun. She just seems like she's having a blast, and it's an interesting fight. I mean, two of the most decorated, female strikers in the UFC. I'm looking forward to this fight. This fight should be fun.
Yeah, and, we know that one of your favorite sayings is, we'll see what happens. We'll see how this plays out. We'll see what happens. Don't predict the future too much. But you're going into, as I mentioned, the first ever 145-pound female fight. A lot of us are sitting here thinking to ourselves, like, there's not really a division. This is just a 145-pound fight. There's no division after it. I know that you're approaching this as, we will see what happens, but do those words ring true even more so than usual? I mean, do you really not know what's going to happen with this 145-pound division beyond Saturday night?
Yeah, definitely. We did this thing for we did this thing for I got Mickey Gall calling me on the phone right now. I have to give it to my guy. So we did this thing obviously because Cyborg was freaking out and didn't want to make 135 or 140. So we pulled the trigger. Then the stuff goes down with her and USADA, which is actually looking really good now, by the way. Apparently, the three things that she has is what this medicine is used for. So it's looking really good. So it was looking bad for a minute. Now it's looking better. So we're in a good place. This fight's going to happen, and I truly believe that whoever wins this title on Saturday night will fight Cyborg for the title.